Hi, this is attorney Jamie Miller of the Miller Law Chronicles Podcast. Today, my co-host, Brandi Spaich, are going to talk about the Red Lobster Bankruptcy Chapter 7. The rise and fall of Red Lobster is going to be the topic today. Many times I'll come across a bankruptcy in the news that I find interesting. We're going to talk about the incredible shrimp giveaway and how that impacted Red Lobster's ultimate Chapter 11 filing. Hope you'll enjoy this podcast and our other podcasts. Please subscribe to us at YouTube at our podcast page, the Miller Law Chronicles. Also would appreciate if you subscribed and like us at Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere that you find your podcasts. Thank you for your time. Hello, this is attorney Jamie Miller, and I'm excited to bring you another edition of our Miller Law Chronicles podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Brandi Spaich. Welcome, Brandi. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Good. And today we're going to talk about something really fun about Red Lobster. Do you go to Red Lobster at all?
It's pretty well the place we go for every birthday dinner. So, yeah.
So there's one in your neighborhood.
Yes, sir.
How many years have you been going to Red Lobster?
I know my mom has been going to it for her birthday dinner since before I was born. So it's been a pretty consistent thing in my life.
Yeah, it's amazing. Red Lobster, filed bankruptcy a couple days ago, and talking about companies that have filed for bankruptcy. We did a podcast several months ago about Rudy Giuliani and the bankruptcy that he filed. But I know Red Lobster is something that's in your life and your mom's life. So let's chat about it.
I think it was, last week that they announced that they were starting to close stores and file that bankruptcy. I do know that I heard some word that it was some kind of a deal of endless shrimp that ended up being the final straw that took them under. Do you know any extras on that?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. And I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And I find it just fascinating that Red Lobster ended up filing bankruptcy in part to a promotion that was too good, that it resulted in a lot of sales. And I think it's important to kind of understand the history of Red Lobster a little bit because it's been around for a while.
Oh, yeah.
It's in that category of fast casual. I mean, Red Lobster started way back in 1968, and it was one of the affordable family restaurants, and it started not too far from you in Lakeland, Florida. It was founded by a guy named Bill Darden. It quickly grew to a national chain of over 600 locations, bringing affordable seafood to the masses.
Right.
Seafood and the perception of seafood is just that it's so expensive, and Red Lobster's goal was to give everybody access to really high quality seafood for a reasonable price. But Red Lobster expanded dramatically in the 70s and 80s, and it captured a market that was largely untapped in the seafood industry. There's always the higher end restaurant. And even though they had great success, they started facing challenges late in the 2000s. The fast casual category continued to expand with Chili's and Fridays and what other restaurant? Chi-Chi's. Do you remember Chi-Chi's?
Yeah.
Or you're too
Vaguely.
young for that. I cannot believe
remember them.
Vaguely remember Chi-Chi's. Chi-Chi's was, the number one Mexican restaurant in the country. Just endless bowls of taco chips and dip. But so Red Lobsters ended up going through various sales and was ultimately purchased by Golden Gate Capital. And Golden Gate Capital contracted with a shrimp supplier. I think it was called Thai Shrimp or something like that. But when they sold to Golden Gate Capital, they came up with the concept of what could they do with increased sales, and sales were really struggling. And they came up with this endless shrimp promotion. And so the endless shrimp promotion essentially was an all-you-can-eat shrimp. And people would come into the restaurant, all-you-can-eat, and would take advantage of that. And it resulted in increased revenue, but at the same time revenue was going up, costs were going up. The cost of shrimp went up, but also the key to these types of restaurants is being able to turn tables. what do you think would happen, Brandi, when people went into these restaurants and had an opportunity to have all you can eat shrimp?
I mean, I'd assume they'd stay there and definitely try to get their money's worth of eating quite literally all of the shrimp they possibly could.
Yeah, and not only that, I read in the newspaper this morning that they would sit there for hours, that they would rotate in and out with friends, and the shrimp would keep coming, but not being able to turn tables. Their precious time would be lunchtime and dinner time, and they had to turn tables in order to generate revenue. So, a promotion that was so good that brought in people that increased revenue. It's just crazy to think about how that could head south and actually be a key factor in bringing down a business.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy to me, especially when you think it feels like a simple solution to that would be to have just, instead of an all the time promotion, just like, at this time or on this day of the week, instead of an all the time thing. Maybe it would help some of that table turning there.
Right. And I know you live in Florida. What is it with shrimp? Like, people love shrimp, I guess.
We really like shrimp. I mean, I can't think of a reason why, but I don't think I have met a single person here that does not enjoy shrimp.
And as we talk about bankruptcy and the impact of these stores closing, like in Wisconsin, we had 10 locations. They've closed 4.
Oh, wow.
And so Red Lobster filed a Chapter 11, and they're hoping to reorganize. And they were able to get $100 million financing from their banks. But filing a Chapter 11 is a good thing if you have a business that can be profitable moving forward. And we've seen many businesses that have filed Chapter 11 that ultimately fail because fundamentally restaurants or in businesses, unless you have great management, a good business model, filing a bankruptcy in itself is not going to save the business. Right. And you figure the impact that this has on jobs and on local economies and everything associated with having a business located somewhere is unfortunate. And the other thing that's unfortunate is you probably don't remember like Red Barn at all, because Red Barn was a fried chicken restaurant that we had in the States. There was many, many locations, very popular in the 70s and 80s. And the building was literally a red barn. Fast food restaurant, looked like a red barn. Red Barn closed, I think, in the early 1980s, but left these barns scattered all across the country that were not filled. And, it's always interesting to look at these buildings years later and see, are they still boarded up? Have they been torn down? Or what else have they been converted into? And in our day, with the economy not being fantastic and everything being done from home, the real estate that's going to be left behind with empty Red Lobsters, can definitely be negative for communities. So, wishing Red Lobster all the best and hope they can figure it out. But just wanted to spend a minute today and talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope the best for them too, because, Red Lobster made up a lot of my personal childhood. I'm sure if anybody out there listening wants to share some of their own memories or thoughts about it, we'd love to receive an email or any kind of comments on social media. You got your email, right?
Yep, podcast at millerlaw.com. If someone wants to tell us their favorite story about Red Lobster. And when you talk to people about Red Lobster, they have one thing, in addition to the shrimp, that they really like. Did you have a favorite thing at Red Lobster that you really liked?
My favorite thing was the snow crab legs.
Okay.
I'm a big sucker for crab legs.
Do me a favor, when you have a chance to talk to your mom, ask her that question, because I hear the snow crab legs, but I also hear the biscuits.
Yes,
is something that people really like. I appreciate you joining me today. Brandi is a great co-host, and I hope that our audience has liked the podcast today. If so, and I'm sure that you have, we'd ask you that you subscribe, like us. You can find us at YouTube, on our YouTube channel for the Miller Law Chronicles Podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts that you like. Please subscribe. It'll allow us to continue to bring additional great content to you. So, Brandi, thank you so much.
Thank you.